was kind of resistant at first because you know how the local competition, right? It's like you don't talk to each other. But now that I've shifted that, that mindset, I've got all the competition in our area. We work closely together. I don't know if it's coming out of COVID or just being able to say, hey, this is a tough enough industry to not have like this enemy type of relationship, and I took that leap of faith, even though everyone was like, don't do it. You shouldn't do it. And it was it was one of those things where I was just holding on for the ride. I made the move in June, which was one of our biggest months this year, and having to move a company from one warehouse to another was crazy. I would not recommend it to anyone. There's just a few efficiencies that you wouldn't even think of, right? If no one's ever had a loading dock, that's something that will probably save us $80,000 this year. And just having a loading dock. The tent ox has been a huge investment for us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's literally split our payroll from 20 employees last year. It's down to 8 to 10.
Wow.
Welcome to Peer Talk, a dialogue with business owners just like you. Peer Talk conversations run the gamut of business challenges facing owners today. The host of Peer Talk is Dan Crowley, founder and owner of Peer Executive Groups, which provides a safe space for owners to share their experience, grow their businesses, and learn from their peers.
Hi, this is Dan Crowley. We have a number of great owners in our peer group network, just like you, and our job is to give you a voice here on Peer Talk.
You're here for game-changing good business advice, so we have to ask, has anyone told you about Good Shuffle Pro? Get ahead with speedy, reliable rental software, plus the top-rated customer service by visiting pro.goodshuffle.com/PEG today. That's pro.goodshuffle.com/PEG.
Welcome to Peer Talk. Our guest today is Trevor Troutman from Let's Party Rental in Bloomington, Illinois. He has a very interesting background, went to college in Southern Illinois University for marketing. Then he scored an internship with Disney, went on to get his master's down in Central Florida, and spent a couple of years working for Disney. Let's see how Trevor brings back some of those experiences and applies them to Let's Party Rental in Bloomington. Welcome to another edition of Peer Talk. This is Dan Crowley. We have an exciting podcast for you today. We have Trevor Troutman from Let's Party Rental Center in Bloomington, Illinois. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you.
Today, we're going to focus on Trevor's story, how he has come into the industry and had some success in the last couple of years, and also some creative things he's doing to inspire his company and continue to retain key employees. So, Trevor, welcome. And let's start with you speaking a bit about the history of Let's Party. Like, I know it's been around for a couple decades, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Let's Party, we're going on 20 years next year. Cool thing is it's always kind of been a family business, like a lot of the event rental industry. My mom took over in 2003. She was kind of the store manager and ended up kind of falling in love with event rentals. Took over the business, and my mom and my dad ended up running it for a few years. When they split up, she took over full ownership and ran it for a good 15 years. She's kind of one of those ladies that just loves planning events, and we kind of stayed static in the sales arena for many years until 2018. My mom ended up moving to Kentucky, and my older brother took over the company. And during that time, he found some success, kind of shifted our core focus. We kind of focused more on the tent, tables, and chairs kind of ball game, even though our customer focus was still heavily reliant on the wedding side of business. And when I came back in town 2 years ago, we really kind of wanted to shift our thinking on profitability and how we could go from, X amount of sales and increase the sales and become more profitable.
So I see that and we'll definitely get into, your shift in your market focus. And again, you went to school for marketing. So why don't you tell us about your personal journey? Again, you've only been back a couple of years, but tell us about what happened before that.
So yeah, I mean, I ended up going to SIU, studying marketing, graduated there in 2011.
SIU's Southern Illinois?
Yeah, Southern Illinois
Okay.
in Carbondale.
Got it.
Ended up graduating there in 2011. During my time at SIU, I went down to Disney, did a Disney internship program down there, kind of opened my eyes up to how big this world is and traveling and kind of doing my thing outside of the family business. So I ended up, when I graduated, ended up moving to upstate New York, had a girlfriend up there and spent a couple of years up there, and found out that having a relationship at that age was a little bit tougher than I could have imagined. So I ended up moving to Dallas, Texas, and worked there for a couple of years. Worked for State Farm. State Farm's big in this area, so it was really a way to just get some, what's the word I'm looking for? Credibility behind my name. So I went down there, really enjoyed working for State Farm in the corporate environment. Didn't enjoy being micromanaged. I really still had that itch of being an entrepreneur. My family, it's a long line of entrepreneurs, real estate agents, and small business owners, and always had that itch. So I kind of had a game plan of going back to school, getting my master's degree in sport business management. And during that time, I kind of had my mind made up when I was working for State Farm to pursue that dream. It didn't quite work out, so what I decided on doing was going back to Florida and kind of living on the beach and exploring these different dreams and goals I had to just really enjoy life. So I moved back to Florida, lived in Clearwater Beach for a couple of years, was able to and blessed to be able to work remotely within Let's Party and build up our online presence. From there, I moved to California, spent a couple of years there, which really allowed me to focus on just getting into the school I wanted to go to. So I ended up retaking the GMAT, got into UCF in Central Florida, and moved out there, bought some property out there, and pursued my dream of getting into the sports industry. That had always been my dream. But it always points back to your family business. So did that, met a lot of great people through the master's program at UCF, which I think at the time was number 6 in the nation for sport business management. And I graduated, and it still was, that employee mindset just didn't fit for me. So I started working for Disney again. And when COVID hit, it kind of gave me an opportunity and a choice to make. I either, stay living in Orlando and kind of play this COVID game through, or come back up here and and turn around our family business, which at the time, there were questions on whether we just shut the doors for good. So I'm glad I was able to come back, and a lot of hard work, but we're in a position now that really allows us to do a lot of different and unique things within the industry.
Very cool. That's a very cool story. I will say that, let me unpack for the people listening to this podcast what has happened and transpired in those 2 years from a strategic / financial performance perspective. So you come back, it's COVID, down 2020, people were against the ropes. You were doing certainly a number of what I would say wedding events and things, wedding planning as much you could, with really not any business in part of that period. But then in 2021, shift starts taking place. You could tell from possibly your educational experience or just your natural predisposition to be entrepreneurial. Your company started shifting and was moving more towards corporate events. And that was inspired in part by some M&A activity, which I think your M&A activity took place the end of 21, early 22, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get to that in a second. But prior to that, you did find your way in 2021. You made Top Gun for event rental in our peer group networks. Congratulations on that. And again, for people who don't know what Top Gun is, it's reserved for the top 25% of event rental operators who have the highest earnings, meaning their ability to make profit on what they're selling, right? So you move from wedding events to some extent. Now you're talking, I think you said earlier that perhaps almost 80% of your volume is coming from corporate. Tell us a little about your M&A journey and what that looked like at the end of 21, early 22.
Yeah, I kind of want to rewind back to 2020. So when I came back, it was one of those things where we had to go back to old school ways of selling. So I was able to pick up the phone and call all these restaurants and different places, especially when we were closed down, to offer outdoor seating and outdoor tents and different things that could promote their business while they were shut down. And that was a whole shift in what we had never done that before. So taking our pricing and slashing it, almost 80% to bring in monthly income, which really shifted the whole industry. Now we experience a lot more of longer term rentals, which, are key in profitability because we're not having such a big payroll number. But a lot of this, you got to thank God for, because at the end of the day, what we were able to do from, the beginning of COVID to where we are now, a lot of those pieces fell into place, meeting you and you throwing me the idea of talking to Tony, and all the things that Tony's been able to, show me, and the knowledge he's been able to give me.
Well, share with who's Tony. So Tony is Tony Peterson, I take.
Yeah. So Tony Peterson, you introduced me to him, and I was kind of resistant at first because you know how the local competition, right? It's like you don't talk to each other. But now that I've shifted that mindset, I've got all the competition in our area. We work closely together. I don't know if it's coming out of COVID or just being able to say, hey, this is a tough enough industry to not have this enemy type of relationship, So Tony, I started talking to him this past winter. And it started as, I'm just going to buy some tents and some chairs from you, didn't really want to move out of my space, even though I knew it was too small for what we were doing. If I wanted to shift my focus to corporate clients, I knew I needed more inventory. I knew I needed a bigger space, which eventually led me to more conversation with Tony and kind of just just letting go of the, what do they call it at EOS?
No,
Letting go of the
letting
vine.
go of the vine, letting go of the
Yeah.
vine. I just went through that. That's funny.
So I think I read that chapter and I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to do it, and I took that leap of faith, even though everyone was like, don't do it. You shouldn't do it. And it was it was one of those things where I was just holding on for the ride. I made the move in June, which was one of our biggest months this year, and having to move a company from one warehouse to another was crazy. I would not recommend it to anyone, but I mean, there's just a few just efficiencies that you wouldn't even think of, right? If no one's ever had a loading dock, that's something that will probably save us 80 grand this year, and just having a loading dock. The tent ox has been a huge investment for us.
Oh yeah.
And it's literally split our payroll from 20 employees last year. It's down to 8 to 10
Wow.
this year. And that's not limiting the sales we've had.
Sales.
We're on par to beat what we did last year, which is kind of crazy,
I mean, you have a target. You have one of the higher targets for earnings goals. And I'm not giving away the farm here, but we look for a good event rental operator to do 25% earnings. On a stretch, we can see them at the highest level get to 30% earnings, and that's obviously where our Top Gun guys are, including yourself, right? So you continue to focus on efficiency, profitability, by moving from the wedding industry over into corporate. You're able to find a way to get from job costing to get that 30% EBITDA, and there's some consistency to it. But so you're saying that you actually did the acquisition of what was called the Event Experience Company, right? I think in Bloomington, and then you took over their space. So you're there now?
Yes.
Oh, got it. And that's, obviously you're sharing space, or are you sharing space with equipment, or no, different?
Yeah, I share space there's quite a few people in here, but Weaver's mainly.
Gotcha. Weaver's Rental.
Which is like a perfect synergy, right? Because they have tools sometimes that I need. If I have any questions for Tony, he's able to help me out.
That's great.
And then I'm able to push him customers too when they need the equipment from him.
And Tony was innovative. He was one of our guests earlier in the podcast a year ago. He did Profit First. Yep. Was a book he read and implemented. I know previous to that, he had implemented Sandler training systems inside of his company, which was, how do you get a person from pain point and opportunity to actually closing the deal and bringing it in. And so he's been innovative in his own right. And if he's down there and available, you guys could probably grab lunch once in a while and glean some things from each other for sure.
Yeah, Profit First was probably one of the biggest things, right? It's not rocket science. It's just a shift of mindset. Stop spending money. If you don't have to spend it, don't spend it,
Correct.
And probably one of our smarter moves was making the switch to Good Shuffle Pro management software. There are a couple of reasons for that. First is the ease of use for our employees and our customers. And secondly is the professionalism it offers our company. But overall, we are feeling pretty good about the switch.
Yeah, putting it in the right bucket, right? So I love the analogy of the plate, and if you're putting the money on the plate in the right place, then there's not money to spend, and it goes back. The best part is the toothpaste, where it's like, okay, when you're down to the bottom of the toothpaste tube, you still find a way to get enough toothpaste on that toothbrush to save you, 10 more days before you need to get a new tube of toothpaste. So that's part of it, not wasting the expense side. So you guys have been doing a great job. And so, just to get everybody a better picture of the organization, your mom's still active. She's selling but she's working remote in Kentucky, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So she does mostly sales. She works with the customers. And that's just huge for me because now I'm able to be flexible and kind of be in this hybrid position of doing the general manager duties, some things that she doesn't really enjoy doing. Well, no one really does, but certain people are good at it. And then being out in the field, and handling those warehouse duties, and again, just being able to be in an efficient warehouse where they've got a very good layout on how to where things are placed and efficiencies on getting it loaded. Really makes that from at our old warehouse, a 4-person job, right? 3 or 4-person job to now it's a 1-person job, and I can keep it within those people I pay salary, so I can, keep that payroll down.
Got it. And then, the other thing I wanted to make sure we got out for the people to hear is, you're getting help you have your brother Quincy, he's in the ops side, and then you have these employees, but you're also in a place in middle of Illinois where you do have seasonality when it comes to your corporate and your tents and things like that. And you have a unique solution to that, right? So you had said, because of your experiences at Disney, you had some ideas around possibly getting your people out and, but retaining them. So why don't you talk us through what you did in Florida and in the past and going forward?
Yeah. So sophomore year in college, I'm 19 years old. I went down and I did the college program at Disney, and I just had the time of my life. I think I came back and I was in like depression for 3 months because I was living in Florida. I was living in Disney, didn't have a car, so it's kind of one of those things where I was meeting people from all over the world, and now it's my time to be able to give that back to someone. And I've been blessed to live in different areas in the United States and travel and just realize how important that is, almost, if not more important than doing the college thing, and just the experiences you're able to see from that perspective. So last year was the first year we did this, which it was they had a good experience, but I don't think I did enough due diligence on my end. I was just excited to get them to Miami. I'm like, they're going to Miami, let's go, And,
so just to stop you there, so you essentially sent your crew to Miami.
Right. So I sent 2 guys down there, and probably one of the biggest questions is like, well, they're going to steal your guys, like who would want to come back from Miami? And it was one of those things where I know this sounds cliche, but my guys are very loyal. I honestly feel if you treat your guys or girls the right way, and have those right values, that they're definitely going to come back. And with the 2 guys I sent down there, they have lives here, right? So they're not going to pick up and move. But if they did, power to them. That's okay with me. I'm not going to, that's not a bridge that's burned for me. I really feel like, I want to grow them as much as grow the company. That might be more important for me. But this year we have a bigger opportunity. So out of all the places I lived, I love living in California. So I was able to, in the beginning of discussions with the guy out in California, to send my guys out there and really just give them a crazy experience out there. I kind of related not only to the Disney college program, but to kind of a paid vacation. Now, obviously, people are probably laughing because this is the event rental industry. It'll be a lot of hard work, but it's kind of unique because they're going to get to miss the 6 months of freezing weather here.
Frozen tundra.
Right?
Wow. Well, that is certainly unique. First I've heard of anything like that being attempted. Hopefully you can keep that on the rails and keep it successful. We're pulling for you to see that happen. So you've had a lot of success. Clearly, you're a blessed man, gone through this. Any last words for our people here as they take away any wisdom from you?
Just don't ever give up. There's a lot of those days, right?
Yep.
Don't ever give up.
Excellent. Well, Trevor Troutman from Let's Party Rental, a great peer group member. Thanks for being here with us, Trevor.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
You're here for game-changing good business advice, so we have to ask, has anyone told you about Good Shuffle Pro? Get ahead with speedy, reliable rental software, plus the top-rated customer service by visiting pro.goodshuffle.com/PEG today. That's pro.goodshuffle.com/PEG.
You've been listening to Peer Talk from Peer Executive Groups, produced and directed by Noah Crowley and hosted by Dan Crowley. Subscribe to this podcast for notifications of future episodes of Peer Talk.